Veltar stared at the star map floating above his desk. Each tiny light represented a world under hegemony control. 3,000 years of expansion painted the galaxy in soft blue light. As an intelligence analyst for the Kethari hegemony, he had spent his entire career watching this map grow larger. War was simple in the galaxy. It had rules. When the hegemony wanted a new system, they sent a fleet. The local species saw the massive ships and surrendered. Sometimes there was a small fight, but it never lasted long. Most species were smart enough to give up when they saw what they faced. The hegemony's ships were beautiful and terrifying. Each vessel was 3 times larger than anything most species could build. Their weapons could crack moons. Their shields could stop anything thrown at them. But the real power wasn't in the ships. It was in the message they sent. Submit or die. Simple, clean, effective. Veltar pulled up a new file on his screen. The heading read, Species 847b, Humans. He had been tracking them for 2 years now. They had just discovered faster-than-light travel. Their ships were crude things, barely holding together. Their weapons were primitive. Their technology was centuries. Behind the standard galactic level, they lived in a small corner of space near the galaxy's edge. 12 star systems. 15 billion individuals spread across 23 worlds. Not impressive numbers, but not tiny either. What caught Veltar's attention was how fast they were expanding. Most species took decades to move from one star to another. Humans were jumping to new systems every few months. They built colonies like they were in a hurry. They sent out exploration ships in every direction. Their radio signals were loud and constant, broadcasting to anyone who would listen. The signals made Veltar uncomfortable. Most species sent careful, polite messages when they first reached space. Hello, we are peaceful. Please contact us. Standard first contact protocol. Human signals were different. They talked about their wars. They shared their history. They played their music. They showed their art. But underneath it all was something else, a tone that made Veltar's scales itch. They sounded like they expected trouble. Veltar's supervisor, Kessman, stopped by his desk. The older Kethari looked tired. He had been managing first contact situations for over a century. What do you think of the new species? Kessman asked, looking at the human data. They seem aggressive, Veltar said. Their history files show constant warfare among their own kind. They have detailed records of thousands of conflicts. All primitive species fight among themselves, Kessman said. They grow out of it once they meet us. These are different. Look at their war records. They don't seem to understand surrender. Kessman laughed. They'll learn. They all do. But Veltar wasn't so sure. He had studied the human conflicts in detail. Other species fought over resources or territory. They had goals. They stopped fighting when those goals became impossible. Humans fought differently. They had something called total war. They didn't just fight armies. They fought entire populations. They destroyed everything their enemies needed to survive. They kept fighting even when winning became impossible. One human conflict lasted 6 years, 60 million dead. The losing side kept fighting until their cities were ash and their armies were gone. Even then, small groups hid in ruins and kept attacking until the very end. Another war involved the entire planet. It lasted 4 years. When it ended, human technology had advanced 50 years in weapon design alone. They had learned to split atoms and drop the pieces on their enemies. They had built flying machines that could cross oceans and rain death from above. The files showed humans at their worst, but also at their most impressive. They could turn anything into a weapon. They could fight in any environment. They could adapt faster than any species Veltar had studied, but what worried him most was what humans called righteous anger. When they believed their cause was just, they became something else entirely. They stopped caring about losses. They stopped counting costs. They fought like they wanted to die, as long as they took their enemies with them. Veltar made his recommendation in the standard format. Species 847b shows aggressive tendencies but limited technological capacity. Recommend standard first contact protocol. Estimated compliance probability, 78%. Force requirements, standard patrol fleet. He submitted the report and forgot about it. The hegemony had procedures for new species. They worked every time. A show of force, a demand for surrender, and another blue dot on the star map. 3 months later, Veltar got new orders. Admiral Kesseth had been assigned to bring the humans into the hegemony. The fleet was already moving toward human space. Veltar's job was to monitor communications and prepare integration protocols. He watched the fleet's progress on his screen. 12 heavy cruisers and 1 flagship. More than enough to handle any resistance. The ships moved through jump space, like ghosts, appearing and disappearing across the galaxy's spiral arms. Human radio signals continued to pour in. Veltar listened to them while he worked. Music, stories, news reports, and something else. Military communications. The humans had detected something. Unknown contacts approaching Sol system, came one report. Massive energy signatures. No. Response to hail attempts. All fleets to alert status, came another. Prepare for possible first contact scenario. Veltar felt his chest tighten. Most species panicked when they detected hegemony ships. They sent desperate messages begging for mercy. They offered tribute. They promised cooperation. The human communications were calm, professional. They were treating this like a military operation, not a diplomatic emergency. Fleet command to all vessels. We don't know who they are or what they want, but this is our space, our home, our families. If they come in peace, we'll welcome them. If they come for war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. Veltar stared at his screen. That wasn't how first contact was supposed to work. Species were supposed to be afraid. They were supposed to understand their place in the galactic order. Humans sounded like they were looking forward to a fight. The Admiral's fleet dropped out of jump space at the edge of the human solar system. 12 worlds orbited a yellow star. Ships moved between them like insects around a hive. Industrial stations floated in the darkness, building more ships, and every single human vessel was moving toward the hegemony fleet. Veltar counted them. Military ships, cargo haulers, passenger liners, mining vessels, research platforms. Everything that could move was coming their way. Nothing was running. Nothing was hiding. Unknown vessels, came the human transmission. You have entered sovereign, human space without permission. State your purpose or withdraw immediately. Admiral Kesseth followed standard protocol. He opened a channel and began the traditional first contact speech. The one that had worked on every species for 3,000 years. I am Admiral Kesseth of the Kethari hegemony. Your species is now under our protection. Surrender your weapons and prepare to join the galactic community. Resistance will be met with force. The human response came immediately. Admiral, this is Fleet Commander Harrison. We decline your offer. This is our final warning. Leave our space now or face the consequences. Veltar's hands shook as he typed his analysis. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Species didn't say no to the hegemony. They couldn't say no. The alternative was destruction. But the humans weren't backing down. Their ships kept coming, and something in their tone suggested they understood exactly what they were facing. They just didn't care. Admiral Kesseth had done this 67 times before. Every species reacted the same way when they saw hegemony ships. Fear, panic, desperate attempts to negotiate, then surrender. The pattern never changed. But the humans were different. Veltar watched the tactical display from his monitoring station. The human fleet approached in loose formation. Their ships looked like they had been built in different decades by different people. Nothing matched. Nothing looked professional. A human destroyer moved beside a converted cargo ship with weapons welded to its hull. A sleek military cruiser flew next to what looked like a passenger liner covered in missile pods. It should have been chaos. Instead, they moved like they had trained together for years. "Human vessels, this is your final warning," Admiral Keseth broadcast. "Stand down and prepare to be boarded. Continued resistance will result in your destruction." The human commander's voice came back steady and calm. "Admiral, you're in our home. You threatened our families. Did you really think we would just roll over?" Keseth turned to his weapons officer. "Target their flagship. Minimal power, just enough to disable their engines." The hegemony's main cannon fired. A beam of pure energy lanced across space and struck the human command ship. The vessel's rear section exploded in a ball of fire and debris. It tumbled out of control, bleeding atmosphere and crew into the void. Every other hegemony officer expected the human fleet to break apart. No species kept fighting after watching their leader die. It was basic psychology. Destroy the command structure and the rest would surrender. The human ships didn't stop. They didn't even slow down. Instead, another voice came over the comm. "This is Commander Mitchell, assuming fleet command. Harrison's dead, but his orders stand. All ships, engage the enemy." The human fleet opened fire. Veltar had seen thousands of space battles in simulation and historical records. Ships traded long-range shots while maneuvering for advantage. Battles lasted hours or days. Casualties were minimal until one side gained a clear advantage. This was nothing like that. The human ships charged straight at the hegemony fleet. No fancy maneuvers, no attempts to maintain distance. They came at full speed with every weapon firing. A human cruiser took a direct hit from a hegemony heavy cannon. The shot punched through its armor and tore the ship in half. The front section kept coming, firing everything it had until secondary explosions tore it apart. Two human destroyers coordinated an attack on a hegemony cruiser. They ignored the alien ship's defensive fire and rammed it from opposite sides. All three ships died in the explosion, but the human pilots had been aiming for the hegemony vessel's weapon systems. "What are they doing?" Keseth demanded. "This isn't tactics. This is suicide." His tactical officer's voice was shaking. "Sir, they're not trying to win. They're trying to hurt us as much as possible before they die." A converted human cargo ship broke through the hegemony defensive line. It had been loaded with explosives instead of supplies. The pilot aimed it directly at the flagship's bridge and detonated everything at once. The hegemony shields held, but barely. Veltar watched, his screens in fascination and horror. The humans were losing badly. Half their fleet was already destroyed. But they had damaged 3 hegemony cruisers and forced the flagship to retreat behind its escort vessels. More importantly, they were learning. The human ships that survived the first exchange changed their tactics. They started targeting specific systems instead of just firing randomly. They coordinated their attacks better. They adapted to hegemony weapons patterns, all while their crews were dying. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "we're picking up human transmissions. They're broadcasting everything to their colonies." "Put it on speakers," Keseth ordered. The bridge filled with human voices, pilots reporting their status, commanders giving orders, engineers trying to keep damaged ships fighting. But underneath the professional chatter was something else. Personal messages. "Tell my wife I love her. Make them pay for this. Remember us. Don't let them win." Veltar felt his blood go cold. These weren't soldiers following orders. These were people who had chosen to die rather than surrender. Every single one of them knew they weren't going home. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the human fleet was completely destroyed. Not one ship escaped, not one crew survived, but the hegemony fleet was crippled. 8 of 12 cruisers needed major repairs. The flagship's main weapon was offline. Casualty reports showed 30,000 hegemony personnel dead or wounded, against a primitive species that shouldn't have been able to scratch their paint. Admiral Kessieth called Veltar to the command center. The older officer looked shaken. In 67 previous first contacts, he had never lost a single ship. Analyst, I need to understand what happened here. These humans fought like nothing I've ever seen. Veltar pulled up his files. Sir, their history shows this behavior pattern. When humans believe their survival is threatened, they stop following normal tactical doctrine. Explain. They call it total war. They don't fight to win territory or resources. They fight to completely destroy their enemy's ability to threaten them. Kessieth stared at the tactical display. Debris from 50 human ships drifted through space. They all died for nothing. We still control this system. With respect, sir, I don't think they see it that way. Veltar highlighted the communication intercepts. Every human colony received detailed records of this battle. They know exactly how we fight. They know our weapons, our tactics, our ship designs. So they're already building countermeasures. Their industrial reports show massive increases in military production. They're converting civilian infrastructure to weapons manufacturing. They're treating this as the first battle of a war, not a failed negotiation. The Admiral's face went pale. How many humans are there? 15 billion across 23 worlds. But, sir, that's not the important number. What is? Veltar pulled up production estimates. At current rates, they'll have a fleet twice the size of this one within 8 months. And unlike this fleet, it will be designed specifically to fight us. The communication officer interrupted. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human homeworld. Put it through. A human appeared on the main screen. He was older, with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind him, Veltar could see what looked like a government building. I am President. Chen of the United Earth Government, the human said. To the alien fleet in our system. You came to our home and murdered our people. You expected us to surrender. You were wrong. The human's voice was calm, but his eyes burned with something that made Veltar step backward. We know you think this is over. We know you think you've won. But this was just the beginning. You wanted to see what humans do when you threaten our families? You're about to find out. The transmission ended. Admiral Kessieth stared at the blank screen. Analyst, in your professional opinion, what do we do now? Veltar looked at his data. Production estimates, population figures, historical analysis of human warfare. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. Sir, I recommend immediate withdrawal and a request for reinforcements. These humans aren't going to surrender. They're going to fight until one of our species is extinct. That's impossible. No species fights. To extinction over a first contact incident. Veltar thought about the human pilots who had rammed their ships into hegemony vessels. The crews who had kept fighting until their ships exploded around them. The calm voices saying goodbye to their families. These ones will, sir, and I don't think we understand what that means yet. 6 months after the first battle, Veltar received a priority assignment. The Hegemony High Command wanted answers. Why were the humans still fighting? Why hadn't they surrendered like every other species? His new office was on the command ship. Eternal Victory. 300 hegemony vessels had gathered for what the Admiralty called the final solution to the human problem. It was the largest fleet in hegemony history. Veltar's job was to find the humans' weakness. Every species had one. Some valued their art above their lives. Others would surrender to protect their young. The key was finding what mattered most to them. But humans were proving difficult to understand. Admiral Thanos, the fleet commander, called Veltar to his office. The massive Kethari was famous for ending 3 different rebellions without losing a single ship. He looked confident, but Veltar could see worry in his eyes. Analyst, show me what we're facing. Veltar activated the holographic display. The human star systems appeared as red dots. They've expanded to 18 systems since our first contact. Population is now 22 billion. How is that possible? We've been blockading them. They're not expanding through normal colonization. Sir, they're moving their entire population. Billions of people are relocating to worlds further from our territory. Thanos studied the map. They're running away. No, sir. They're spreading out, making themselves harder to target. The display changed to show human fleet movements. Their military has grown from 200 ships to over 3,000. But more concerning is this. New data appeared. Factory ships, mobile construction platforms, asteroid mining operations. They've militarized their entire economy. Every civilian facility is producing weapons. Every cargo ship has been converted to carry troops or supplies. They've turned their society into a war machine. All species do that when threatened. It won't help them against this fleet. Veltar hesitated. Sir, there's something else. Intelligence reports from our captured territories. What reports? The humans have been raiding our supply lines. Small, fast ships appear without warning, attack our convoys, and disappear before we can respond. They're not trying to hold territory, they're just trying to hurt us. Thanos waved dismissively. Pirate attacks. Annoying but not dangerous. Sir, they've destroyed 47 supply convoys in the last 3 months. Our client species are starting to ask questions. Some are requesting additional protection, others are suggesting we negotiate with the humans. That got the Admiral's attention. Negotiate? With primitives? The Velkari delegation has submitted a formal proposal. They want us to offer the humans limited autonomy in exchange for ending the raids. Thanos' face darkened. The hegemony does not negotiate. We conquer. Yes, sir. But the High Command has authorized me to recommend a demonstration of force, something to break human morale without completely destroying them. What do you suggest? Veltar pulled up another file. New Geneva. It's a major human colony world, 2 billion people, important industrial center. If we damage it severely, the humans might reconsider their position. Damage, not destroy? Standard pacification protocol? Sir, target military facilities and government centers. Leave the population mostly intact. Show them we could destroy their world completely if we wanted to. Thanos nodded. Acceptable. We'll make the humans watch their precious colony burn. Then, they'll surrender like all the others. 2 weeks later, the hegemony fleet arrived at New Geneva. The human defenders put up a fierce fight, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. 40 human ships against 300 hegemony vessels. Veltar watched from the command deck as the human fleet died. They fought with the same desperate courage he had seen before. Ships ramming hegemony cruisers, pilots flying damaged fighters, directly into enemy gun positions, crews fighting until their vessels exploded around them. But courage wasn't enough against overwhelming numbers. When the last human ship was destroyed, Admiral Thanos ordered the planetary bombardment to begin. The plan was surgical. Target government buildings, military bases, spaceports. Destroy the colony's ability to fight without killing everyone. A demonstration of power, not genocide. The orbital bombardment lasted 6 hours. When it ended, New Geneva's major cities were in ruins. The spaceport was a crater. The planetary defense grid was scrap metal. 2 billion people looked up at the hegemony fleet and saw their helplessness. Now they'll surrender, Thanos said with satisfaction. But Veltar was reading communication intercepts from across human space. What he saw made his heart race with fear. The humans weren't broadcasting surrender offers. They weren't pleading for mercy. They were sharing recordings of New Geneva's destruction, images of burning cities, lists of the dead, children's bodies pulled from rubble, and underneath every message was the same phrase: "They killed our children." Within hours, human response was spreading across their entire territory. Military production increased by 400%. Civilian ships were being stripped down to carry more weapons. Mining operations were converted to building military bases, but more disturbing were the tactical changes. Human raids increased dramatically. But they weren't targeting supply convoys anymore. They were targeting hegemony colonies, civilian populations. The same kind of targets the hegemony had hit on New Geneva. "Sir," Veltar reported, "the humans have changed their strategy. They're no longer fighting a defensive war." "What do you mean?" "They're attacking our civilians. The raid on Kethala killed 30,000 non-combatants. The strike on the Velkari trade station left no survivors." Thanos looked confused. "That's not how war works. You don't target non-military populations. It's against every civilized convention." "The humans don't seem to care about conventions, sir. They're saying we targeted their civilians first." "That was different. That was a demonstration." "Try explaining that to them, sir." Reports continued to pour in. Human attacks were becoming more sophisticated, more brutal. They weren't just destroying military targets anymore. They were making sure survivors remembered the experience. A human fleet appeared at a hegemony mining colony. Instead of simply destroying the facilities, they broadcast warnings to the workers. "This is for New Geneva," the human commander announced. "Tell your leaders that we remember our dead." Then they systematically destroyed everything. The mines, the processing plants, the transport ships. They left the workers alive but stranded on a dead world. The message was clear: this is what you did to us. Now we're doing it to you. Veltar's latest intelligence report made grim reading. The humans have developed new weapon systems, ship-killer missiles designed specifically to penetrate our shields, boarding pods that can cut through our hull armor, fighter designs optimized for kamikaze attacks. How did they advance so quickly? They're learning from every engagement, sir. Every battle gives them more data about our technology, and they're sharing that information across their entire fleet. Thanos studied the tactical displays. Red markers showed human attacks across 12 star systems. "How many ships do they have now?" "Over 8,000, sir. But that's not the real problem." "What is?" "They're not fighting to win territory anymore. They're fighting to hurt us as much as possible. Every attack is designed to cause maximum damage while requiring minimum resources." Veltar highlighted recent battle reports. "They've stopped trying to hold ground. They hit us hard and disappear. They target our supply lines, our communications, our civilian populations. They're not trying to defeat us in conventional battle." "Then what are they trying to do?" "They're trying to make the cost of fighting them higher than the benefit of conquering them." For the first time since the war began, Admiral Thanos looked uncertain. "Has any species ever tried this strategy before?" "No, sir. Every other species has fought to defend specific territories or populations. They had things they needed to protect. The humans have changed that equation." "How?" "They've made their entire civilization mobile. They don't defend fixed positions anymore. They can relocate their population, their industry, their government at will. That means they can fight indefinitely without worrying about losing something. Irreplaceable." Thanos stared at the star map. Red markers showed human activity across 20 star systems. "What do they want?" "We've intercepted their communications, sir. Their terms are simple. Tell me. Complete hegemony withdrawal from human space, recognition of human territorial sovereignty, and reparations for New Geneva." "Impossible. The hegemony doesn't pay tribute to primitives." "Then the war continues, sir." Veltar looked at his latest projections. At current rates, the humans would have 15,000 ships within a year. Their attacks were spreading across 50 hegemony systems. Client species were beginning to question whether the war was worth the cost. "Sir, there's one more thing." "What?" "The humans have sent us a message. They want you to know that New Geneva was just the beginning." 1 year after New Geneva, Veltar no longer slept well. His office aboard the command ship had become a war room filled with maps, reports, and casualty figures. The numbers told a story that no one in the hegemony wanted to believe. The humans had become something the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral Thanos paced behind Veltar's desk, studying the latest intelligence reports. "Explain this to me again. How does a species go from primitive to this in 18 months? Veltar pointed to the holographic display. "They've industrialized warfare, sir. Every aspect of their society now serves military purposes." The display showed human territory. What had been 12 systems was now 37. But these weren't conquered worlds. They were mobile populations that moved constantly, setting up temporary bases and disappearing when hegemony forces arrived. "Look at their fleet composition," Veltar continued. 18,000 ships now, but not like our fleets. The human vessels appeared on screen, fast attack ships built for hit-and-run tactics, mobile repair platforms that could fix battle damage in hours instead of months, factory ships that could build new weapons while moving between stars. They don't fight like a military force anymore. They fight like a plague. Admiral Thanos stopped pacing. "What do you mean?" "They appear without warning, cause maximum damage, and disappear before we can respond. Every attack spreads their technology and tactics to new groups. Every battle teaches them something new about us." Veltar pulled up battle reports from the last 6 months. The raid on Keth Prime. 300 human ships appeared out of nowhere, destroyed the orbital shipyards, and vanished. Total engagement time: 4 hours. Our response fleet arrived 6 hours later to find empty space. We killed 2,000 humans in that engagement. "Yes, sir. But they killed 30,000 of our people and destroyed facilities worth 1 trillion credits. Then they broadcast the entire battle to every human fleet in the galaxy." The Admiral's face darkened. "Broadcast? Every human engagement is recorded and shared. They're learning from each other's experiences in real time. A tactic that works against us in one system appears in human fleets across the galaxy within days." More reports appeared on screen. The attack on the Velkari Trade Consortium. The humans didn't just destroy the stations. They captured intact hegemony technology and reverse-engineered it within weeks. "That's impossible." "Sir, the humans have something we've never encountered before. They call it total war mobilization. Their entire species is focused on fighting us. Every human thinks about defeating the hegemony every day." Veltar highlighted communication intercepts. "Children learn weapon design in school. Artists create propaganda encouraging more attacks. Scientists work only on military projects. Even their entertainment focuses on war themes. All species do that during wartime. Not like this, sir. Other species fight to defend something. The humans are fighting to destroy something. Us." The Admiral studied the reports. "What about their casualties? They must be taking heavy losses." "Over 2 million humans dead so far. But, sir, they don't seem to consider that a deterrent." Veltar showed casualty analyses. Human pilots volunteer for missions with 0 survival probability. Ship crews fight until their vessels explode. Ground forces use suicide tactics as standard procedure. They're insane. No, sir. They're determined. Every human death is treated as a reason to fight harder, not a reason to surrender. A communication alert interrupted their discussion. "Sir," the officer reported, "priority message from Hegemony High Command." The hologram of Grand Admiral Kesses then appeared. The Supreme Commander of all Hegemony forces looked older than Veltar remembered. "Admiral Thanos, report on the human situation." "Sir, we're facing unexpected resistance. The humans have proven more resourceful than anticipated." "I'm reading. Reports of attacks on 78 hegemony systems. Client species are demanding protection we can't provide. The Velkari are threatening to leave the Alliance. The Mordak have stopped paying tribute." Veltar felt his stomachs drop. The hegemony's power came from its client species. If they started breaking away... "Grand Admiral," Thanos said carefully, "we need more ships. The human fleet grows faster than we can destroy it. You have the largest fleet in hegemony history. How many more ships do you need? At current rates? All of them, sir. The Grand Admiral's image flickered. Explain. Veltar stepped forward. Sir, the humans aren't fighting a conventional war. They're fighting a war of extinction. Meaning, they believe this conflict will end with either their species destroyed or ours driven from the galaxy. There's no middle ground. That's ridiculous. No species fights to total extinction. These ones do, sir. We have intercepted human communications. They call it the Long War. They're prepared to fight for generations if necessary. Veltar activated new displays. Their strategy has 3 phases. First, survive our initial attacks. They've accomplished that. Second, make the cost of occupying their territory higher than the benefit. They're doing that now. What's the third phase? Drive us completely out of their region of space and establish a buffer zone to prevent future attacks. The Grand Admiral was quiet for a long moment. How large a buffer zone, based on their current territorial expansion? Approximately 300 star systems, sir. 300? That's a quarter of our territory. Yes, sir. But from the human perspective, it's the minimum safe distance to prevent another surprise. Attack like ours. More alarms sounded. The communication officer looked panicked. Sirs, we're receiving multiple distress calls. Human fleets are attacking Cathala, Mordak Prime, and the Velkari home system simultaneously. Admiral Thanos stared at the tactical display. How many ships? Unknown, sir. The attacks just started. But early reports suggest thousands of human vessels. Veltar felt something cold settle in his chest. Sir, this is what they call escalation. They're showing us they can attack any target in hegemony space. We'll destroy them! Sir, our fleets are scattered across the galaxy trying to defend everything. The humans can concentrate their forces and hit us wherever we're weakest. The Grand Admiral's image leaned forward. Analyst, in your professional opinion, what are our options? Veltar looked at his data. Production figures, casualty reports, tactical analyses. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. Sir, we have 3 choices. First, commit our entire fleet to destroying every human world simultaneously. That would require pulling all our forces from every other territory, which would leave us defenseless against rebellion from client species. Yes, sir. Second option, negotiate a peace treaty recognizing human territorial claims. Unacceptable. The hegemony doesn't negotiate with primitives. Third option, sir, continue fighting and hope the humans eventually run out of resources. How long would that take? Veltar pulled up his projections. Based on current trends? Between 50 and 200 years, sir. The Admiral stared at him. 200 years? Yes, sir. The humans have a saying, our children's children will finish what we started. They're not planning to end this war in their lifetime. The communication officer interrupted again. Sirs, update from the attacks. Cathala orbital defense grid has been destroyed. Mordak Prime is under bombardment. The Velkari are reporting 30% of their fleet eliminated. 2 years after first contact, Veltar stood on the bridge of the Worldbreaker. The massive dreadnought was the most powerful weapon the hegemony had ever built. It could crack planets, destroy entire fleets, end civilizations. Today, it was humanity's last hope for survival. The irony wasn't lost on him. Grand Admiral Kesses then had made the decision 3 months ago. If we can't control the humans, we'll eliminate them completely. The entire hegemony fleet had been recalled from across the galaxy. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. The cost had been enormous. Without hegemony protection, client species had declared independence. Rebel movements had started on dozens of worlds. The 3,000-year empire was collapsing. But high. Command believed it was worth it. Destroy humanity completely and send a message to the galaxy. This is what happens when you resist the hegemony. Veltar wasn't sure it would work. Around the world breaker, 2,000 hegemony vessels moved in perfect formation toward Earth. The human home world floated before them, blue and green and completely defenseless. No orbital stations, no defense grid, no fleet. The humans had evacuated everything. "Where are they?" Admiral Thanos demanded. Intelligence reports showed that billions of humans lived on Earth, but the planet appeared empty. "Underground, sir," Veltar reported. "Deep bunkers built into the planet's crust. They're planning to wait out the bombardment." "They think they can survive a planet-killer weapon?" "No, sir. I don't think they expect to survive at all." That was what worried Veltar most. The humans weren't planning to win this battle. They were planning to make it cost everything. "Sir," the sensor officer reported, "contacts approaching from the outer system." The tactical display lit up with red markers. Human ships emerging from behind asteroids, gas giant moons, and deep space hiding spots. They had been waiting. Veltar counted the ships. 50,000 human vessels, sir. Every ship they've built, captured, or converted. Against 2,000 of ours? They're outnumbered but outgunned. Sir, look at their formation. The human fleet wasn't arranged for battle. They were arranged for sacrifice. Fast attack ships in front, loaded with explosives. Larger vessels behind them designed to ram hegemony ships. Everything built for one massive final charge. "They're going to try to take us with them," Veltar realized. Admiral Thanos activated the communication system. "Human fleet, this is Admiral Thanos of the Hegemony Armada. You are completely outnumbered. Surrender now and we will grant you swift deaths." The human response came immediately. "Admiral, this is Fleet Commander Harrison. You killed our world once. Now we're going to kill yours." Veltar felt his blood freeze. "Sir, that's impossible. Commander Harrison died in the first battle 2 years ago." "Different Harrison, sir. These humans name their children after dead war heroes." The human fleet began its charge, 50,000 ships accelerating toward 2,000. The largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. But something was wrong with the human approach. They weren't coming straight at the hegemony fleet. They were spreading out, surrounding the entire armada. "Sir, they're not trying to break through our lines. They're trying to trap us here." "Trap us? We have the planet killer. We can destroy their entire species." "Yes, sir, but we can't leave." The first human ships reached hegemony vessels. Instead of engaging in conventional battle, they rammed themselves into enemy hulls. Suicide attacks that traded one human ship for massive damage to hegemony vessels, but the humans had planned for acceptable losses. Every ramming attack was carefully calculated. One human destroyer could cripple a hegemony cruiser. 10 human fighters could destroy a battleship by targeting its weapon systems. "They're not trying to win," Veltar observed. "They're trying to make sure we can't leave." More human ships crashed into hegemony vessels. Each attack was coordinated with others. Human ships worked in groups, with some vessels drawing fire while others made ramming runs. "Sir, they're targeting our engines and jump drives specifically. They want to strand us here." Admiral Thanos watched his fleet being torn apart by enemy ships that didn't even try to survive their attacks. "How many ships are we losing?" 30% casualties, sir. But the humans have lost over 40,000 vessels. "Then we're winning." "No, sir. We're dying." The human fleet's final wave approached the world breaker. 1,000 ships, all aimed directly at the massive dreadnought. They ignored the defensive fire that tore through their ranks. They ignored the fact that most of them would die before reaching their target. They just kept coming. "All weapons fire on the approaching ships," Thanos ordered. "The world breakers." Guns opened up. Beams of energy that could melt mountains swept across space, destroying dozens of human ships with each shot. But there were too many targets. "Sir, multiple hull breaches. They're trying to board us." Human soldiers had hidden inside the ramming ships. When their vessels struck hegemony hulls, they poured out like an infection. fighting with a desperation that shocked even veteran hegemony troops. Seal all bulkheads. Flood the breached sections with poison gas. Sir, it's not working. The humans are wearing sealed armor, and they're not trying to capture sections, they're setting off explosives. Veltar realized what was happening. Sir, they're not trying to take the ship, they're trying to destroy it from the inside. That's suicide. They'll die too. Yes, sir. They know that. The battle raged through the Worldbreaker's corridors. Human soldiers fought like they had nothing to lose because they didn't. Every one of them was a volunteer who had said goodbye to their families. Sir, we're losing main power. The humans have reached the reactor core. Stop them. We're trying, sir, but they keep sending more troops. Every time we kill one group, another appears. Outside, the space battle was ending. Most of both fleets were destroyed. Debris drifted through space like a graveyard of civilizations. But the humans had accomplished their goal. The hegemony fleet was trapped at Earth. No ship had working jump drives. No vessel could escape to carry word of what had happened. Sir, the communication officer reported. Transmission from Earth. The main screen activated. President Chen appeared, but he was in a different location now. Deep underground, surrounded by steel and stone. Admiral Thanos, the human said, I want you to understand what's about to happen. Behind Chen, Veltar could see technical displays, countdown timers, status reports. You came here to destroy our world, to kill our species, to send a message to the galaxy about hegemony power. The human's voice was calm, but his eyes burned with something that made Veltar want to run. But you made one mistake. You brought your entire fleet, every ship, every admiral, every weapon, all in one place. The displays behind Chen showed massive energy readings building deep in Earth's core. We've been preparing for this moment since the day you attacked New Geneva. Every human who died in this war, every child who grew up in bunkers, every family that sacrificed everything. It was all for this. Admiral Thanos stared at the screen. What are you saying? We're saying goodbye, Admiral, and we're taking you with us. The transmission cut off. Veltar looked at his sensors. Deep. Beneath Earth's surface, massive explosions were beginning. Not nuclear weapons. Something far more powerful. Sir, they've destabilized the planet's core. Earth is going to explode. How long do we have? Based on the energy readings? 10 minutes, sir. Admiral Thanos turned to his crew. Can we escape? No, sir. No functional jump drives in the fleet. Can we stop it? No, sir. The reaction is too deep, too widespread. Veltar felt a strange calm settle over him. After 2 years of studying human warfare, he finally understood what he had been watching. Sir, may I make one final report? Go ahead, analyst. The humans never intended to win this war in the conventional sense. From the beginning, their strategy was to make fighting them cost more than defeating them was worth. They're committing suicide. Yes, sir. But they're taking us with them. Every hegemony admiral, every ship, every weapon. And when word of this reaches the galaxy, every species will know that the humans chose to die rather than surrender. What does that accomplish? It proves that some things are more important than survival, sir. And that makes humans the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever seen. The countdown reached 0. Earth exploded. The blast consumed the planet, the human fleet, and every hegemony vessel in the system. Veltar's last thought was a line from a human transmission he had intercepted months ago. We don't fight to win. We fight until you lose. In the aftermath, when rescue ships finally reached the system weeks later, they found only empty space where Earth had been. No survivors, no wreckage, no evidence that two civilizations had just destroyed each other. But across the galaxy, the message was clear. The humans were gone, but so was the hegemony's entire fleet. The 3,000-year empire collapsed within. Months as client species declared independence and rebel movements spread across 100 worlds. The age of hegemony was over, and in the deepest archives of galactic civilization, one final human transmission was preserved, broadcast on all frequencies in the moment before Earth died. To any species listening, this is humanity's final message. We died free. Remember that. And remember what happens to those who try to take freedom away. War had been nothing until the galaxy stood in the path of human fury.